These cases always hit home.
Developing now on Fox 13 News Live at 5. A Salt Lake County couple is under arrest after allegedly locking up their 13-year-old son in a makeshift cell for up to 24 hours. Details of what the child went through and the charges the parents face.
It's been almost a year since the state announced piloting a new micro-shelter program here in Salt Lake City. Where things stand now and how they're expanding.
Well, we're keeping the rain away, but we're bringing back the smoke. Does it stick around for the holiday weekend? I'll let you know.
One of Utah's largest water districts passes a tax increase. How much you're going to pay? Coming up.
Hey, meet my friend Claudette. No need to be scared. She's part of many exhibits here that teach our young children how to read. Coming up, I'm going to tell you how books and sensory go hand in hand.
None of this was planned.
Oh, I don't think it'll ever happen again.
And 6 Utah mothers are now forever linked in a story you've got to see to believe.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News Live at 5 starts now.
We begin with a disturbing story in Kearns. 2 parents are in custody, charged with allegedly locking up their 13-year-old son in a makeshift cell.
Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold joins us live from that home in Kearns. Chris, walk us through what investigators say this child went through.
Yeah, Kelly and Bob, not only a disturbing case, but a very troubling one as well. The father, 49-year-old Travis Peterson, and the stepmother, 42-year-old Melissa Gray, both arrested on Tuesday on 1 count of aggravated child abuse. Now, Gray is also facing an additional charge of child abuse with injury. This all started back on August 19th when police were called to investigate a child abuse case. When officers arrived, they saw the 13-year-old boy in an alcove looking like a closet under the stairs that was locked with a padlock from the outside. According to a probable cause statement, the boy had been locked in the makeshift cell for approximately 24 hours around the clock after being disciplined by his stepmother. The boy reported being hungry, lonely, and having to sleep curled up in that cell.
Detectives have learned through this investigation process that the child was being fed 2 times a day and then unfortunately only let out of this cell 3 times a day to use the restroom.
Unified Police Sergeant Amy Ray says both parents told police they didn't see anything wrong with what they had done and what they had put their son through. The probable cause statement also shed light that this wasn't the first time the father had done something like this, saying that the boy's 22-year-old brother had also been locked up when he was younger.
We always walk in as investigators thinking like, is this how a child should be raised? And keeping them behind makeshift cells is not the way children should be raised. And so it's very hard to deal with.
As for that 13-year-old boy, he is now staying with relatives as both the Division of Children and Family Services and Unified Police continue their investigation into this case. And you know, I've been out here for a couple of hours talking to a few neighbors that I've seen outside, including one couple that's lived on this street for 33 years, and they tell me that this whole case just really blows their mind that something like this would happen so close to their home. For now, live in Kearns, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Chris, thank you. Just into the Fox 13 newsroom, an Idaho judge has granted an extension for Chad Daybell's appellate attorney when it comes to filing for post-conviction relief.
You may recall that Daybell was sentenced to die on June 15th for his role in the deaths of his first wife, Tammy Daybell, and his current wife's children, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. The East Idaho News reports Judge Stephen Boyce ruled in favor of Daybell's legal team because they've only been working with him for less than 3 months and still have an enormous amount of evidence to go through. Normally, under Idaho law, post-conviction relief would need to be wrapped up by October 15th for Daybell. The Idaho Supreme Court still needs to approve Judge Boyce's ruling.
We're now getting a closer look at flooding in Arches National Park. This picture was taken near the Delicate Arch trailhead. You can see water and mud are practically everywhere. The National Park Service wants to install 3 bridges in this area to help alleviate problems on this road during inclement weather.
Some red mud there
Boy,
at
no
Arches.
kidding.
Breck, sunshine though today.
Yeah, sunshine here throughout most of the state. We're not worried about the rain showers, the thunderstorms that can produce flash flooding. Now, we've welcomed in a little bit of upper level moisture across southeastern Utah. We're seeing some cloud cover, not any threatening weather though. And it's clear as you look through the rest of the state, west central Utah, as we look near Delta, Oak City, not a cloud around. Here across the north, again, we're noticing that smoke a little bit thicker here throughout most valley locations as we look at the air quality situations with our sensors powered by Telus. As we're seeing, yeah, green, but we're mixing in some yellow where we've moved to the moderate concern here as we look all across northern Utah. Now, a cool front moving in, that's been changing the flow out of the northwest. So we're tapping into some smoke coming in from Idaho, but temperatures cooling down just a bit in preparation where temperatures look to be even going on a downward trend heading into tomorrow. So temperatures, as you can see, Ogden, Salt Lake City were about 2 degrees cooler than yesterday, but expect a cooler evening and temperatures to drop by about 5 degrees heading into tomorrow. I mentioned that movement of the moisture across southeastern Utah. Again, we're not seeing much activity from radar. It's clear, it's dry here throughout the north. Here's the position of that front. It's going to continue to track further southward, meaning that we're going to be dropping temperatures for your Thursday forecast. But it's 80s up until 9 o'clock, then it's 70s, keeping it clear. That smoke, does it get thicker? And if it does, will it linger on into the holiday weekend? I'll answer that coming up in just a few minutes.
Why not have these spaces utilized that are just sitting and not used?
A program to help tackle homelessness here in Salt Lake City is expanding. I'm Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubbi. This is the state's new micro-shelter site aimed at helping more people find a new beginning. Tucked under freeways, on barren land, could be a fresh start for someone who might be struggling to find a place to live.
We knew that it would be a good model to get people off the street that are resistant to congregate shelter, and we've proven that.
These are micro-shelter units by 5th South and 7th West in Salt Lake City. Last September, the state announced starting a pilot program with these 50 micro-shelters at a site at 3rd South and 6th West. They were open to unsheltered people experiencing homelessness from December till July, and then moved to this 2-acre land that UDOT owns.
Their desires are that they have a personal space, that they can lock up those personal belongings and know they're not going to be stolen, so they can go out and get their health care. Job interviews, go to work, all those things. Those are barriers when you're unsheltered.
The units have a door with a lock, a bed, power outlets, and heating and cooling as well. They also have case managers and other resources on site. SwitchPoint will be the provider at this location too.
The nice thing is we'll have showers at this location, and we did it last time, so I'd like to just give a woohoo to showers. That's a big moment. So we'll still have our bathroom trailers, bicycle racks.
Right now, they will continue with these 50 units from Foldham.
Our plan is to expand possibly to 100.
They did learn some lessons from the old site, like trying to create more leveled pathways to help people in wheelchairs or walkers get around easily. They also saw people take responsibility for their units.
I was actually really surprised by the success of the program. I didn't really know what to expect, and it's because they had their own space and they felt safe.
The state hopes to finish construction in the next month, welcome people in, and have them settled in before winter starts. In Salt Lake City, I am Maithili Gubbi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Utah County leaders have unveiled their plan for sheltering people experiencing homelessness come this winter.
This county-owned surplus warehouse will be converted to a place for people to stay when it gets cold. New state law dictates that counties without a homeless shelter must have a place for the homeless to stay. In Utah County, that will be in 3 locations, one at Project Genesis, another at a Seventh-day Adventist church, and this building in Provo.
One of the main things we knew was that we were up against was identifying locations near bus stops, near wraparound services. You know, there may be a church in Santaquin, but that might not meet our need near Wasatch Behavioral Health and Food and Care Coalition and some of the needs of many of our individuals. And so we literally scoured all of Utah County.
Currently, Utah County has no dedicated homeless shelter, and county officials say it is not a short-term goal. They may address it, they say, in the future.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox apologizing today for a fundraising email his campaign sent showing him with former President Donald Trump at Arlington National Cemetery. It is from earlier this week when they honored a Utah soldier killed in Afghanistan. But then pictures from the event wound up in a Cox campaign email, which was against federal law. Arlington forbids the use of its grounds for political campaigns. In a response to a constituent, the governor says it was a mistake and was never intended to be used by his campaign, which will apologize for it.
An environmental group is suing the Biden administration over a series of oil and gas leases in the San Rafael Desert region of Utah. It includes a lease within the Labyrinth Canyon Wilderness area. The Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance says the Bureau of Land Management under the Biden administration is allowing 51 oil and gas leases in that area. They are trying to get a federal judge to block it.
This sounds like a plot for a novel. A Nevada politician accused of killing a journalist over a story that made him look bad. Sadly, it's real life. Find out what a jury decided.
And it won't surprise you to hear that many parents are stressed out. But it might surprise you to find out what the U.S. Surgeon General thinks should be done about it.
And maybe you saw the closing ceremonies a couple of weeks ago. But Paris is not done with Olympics. We'll take you to the start of the Paralympics coming up.
In national news, a jury today found a Nevada politician guilty of murdering a Las Vegas journalist.
Former Clark County Public Administrator Robert Telles was found guilty of stabbing newspaper journalist Jeff Harriman to death in September of 2022. Prosecutors say Telles was angry because Harriman exposed Telles's alleged bad behavior in office. The editor of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, where Harriman worked, called today's verdict a, quote, measure of justice for slain journalists all over the world.
A new advisory confirms what most parents already know. U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy says parents and other caregivers are more likely than other adults to experience high levels of stress. It's something he warns can harm their mental health and, in turn, the well-being of their children. The Surgeon General says we need a culture that, quote, values, supports, and empowers parents. He argues parents should get some support from policy and community programs, including things like time off to take care of a sick child, affordable health care, and mental health resources.
The hostage rescued by Israeli forces this week has been released from the hospital where he was evaluated. The Israeli military say they found Qaid Fahan al-Qaidi alone in a Gaza tunnel during a rescue mission. He was among those captured by Hamas last October and is just the 8th hostage to be rescued alive from Gaza.
SpaceX is gearing up to try a historic space launch later this week. The Polaris Dawn spacecraft was first supposed to lift off yesterday, but was canceled because of a helium leak. It was then rescheduled for this morning, but bad weather forced another delay. Now SpaceX says it will try again on Friday. The launch is significant because it would be the first civilian-led mission into space.
In world news, the Olympic torch is back in Paris, France. Today was the opening ceremony for the Summer Paralympics.
Scripps News International correspondent Ross Cullen has the story.
Well, a dazzling start to the Paralympics in Paris. The 2024 Games officially underway with the opening ceremony, which took place on the Champs-Élysées on Wednesday evening with a parade of athletes going down the famous boulevard, which was converted slightly to make sure it was accessible for people using wheelchairs. Rubber mats were put down over the cobblestones on the famous avenue. After the parade, it was time for the second part of the opening ceremony. in Place de la Concorde. You might remember that as the location for the urban sports during the Olympics. 150 dancers, a music and light show in front of dignitaries like the French president, other heads of state, other heads of government from around the world taking in that performance, which included disabled athletes and disabled performers. That officially marks the start of the 2024 Games, and now all eyes will turn to the action. That begins on Thursday with 22 gold medals up for grabs on the first day of competition. Team USA finished third in the medals table last time around behind Britain and China, so they will be hoping to be able to improve on their performance this time around. And we now have 12 days of action lasting until the 8th of September. Ross Cullen for Scripps News in Paris.
The universe decided we all needed children together.
I'm Mark Blaine at Stansbury Park in Tooele County, and oh baby, have we got a story for you that defies the odds. This circle of close friends who grew up together in Grantsville got together at the park where they recently participated in a baby photo shoot with their newborns. The 6 young ladies, which include 2 sisters and 2 sister-in-laws, all gave birth during the same time frame.
There's some babies that are 20 hours apart, a few days apart, and a few weeks apart. The only one that was trying for a baby was me. So none of this was planned. And they were all born the end of June in July.
The half-dozen bundle of joys range in age from 4 to 8 weeks old, and when professional photographer Autumn Tillock, who was also from Grantsville, came across the mom's social media posting, she felt compelled to offer them a free photo shoot before thinking about what she was getting into.
To kind of prepare myself for their shoot, I Googled, I looked up 6 newborns together, and I worded it every way I could, and no matter how I worded it, nothing would come up for me to get some ideas.
Out of the 6 moms, there's only 1 rookie. While the other women have other children, only Tylee Bird is a first-time mom who couldn't be happier that her best friend Jessica Goff is among the group.
Whenever I have questions or anything, she's the first one I call, and I think that's been the biggest blessing, to have her and to be moms together. It's been amazing.
Only time will tell what the future holds for the infants, but talk to the moms and they're rooting for their little ones to become best friends.
I would hope so. That would be a really big wish for me, just because how close all of us are, and we all live in a small town. So I think having them grow up together and staying part of our little family would be really awesome to watch.
As for the photographer behind the adorable photos, she knows the odds are long she'll ever photograph again so many close friends who all have newborns on their hands at the same time.
Oh, I don't think it'll ever happen again. I don't think it'll ever happen again.
Mark Blaine, Fox 13 News, Utah.
You know which one was the cutest baby?
You know the old Chinese proverb, there's only one beautiful child in the world, and every mother has it.
That's right.
That is the truth. They were all so darling. Congratulations.
Beautiful,
What a bond
beautiful.
for the moms and now the kids.
Oh, yeah. Special memory.
Yeah, beautiful day to get
Beautiful
together.
day to be able to take a photo to get outside, because, yeah, we're holding on to the sunshine, and these temperatures not too bad. As I mentioned, though, heading into the weekend, we're due for a warm-up. In addition, one other area of concern is the air quality. Smoke starting to infiltrate portions of northern Utah. Here's a view right now as we're seeing from Old Mill and Cottonwood Heights looking towards downtown Salt Lake City. Yeah, the smoke a little bit thicker. We've got 80s here with the front moving in, the wind direction changing out of the north. That will usher in some cooler air. So we're going to see a little temperature drop for tomorrow, even a little bit more deeper than what we previously thought. So this is going to allow temperatures to be below average. Again, under that northerly flow, we are concerned with the air quality. We're right now all yellow, moderate level of concern here throughout northern Utah. And potentially as we go into Friday, this is what we're going to be looking at with that northerly flow, the wildfires burning through Idaho. That is going to be the culprit. It's supplying the smoke here, and it does get thick. Boy, and a big enhancement as we move from Thursday evening into Friday, spreading across northern into west central Utah. So be ready for that. And again, moving into that unhealthy category as we talk about the different levels of issue or concern here, as that will be more of an orange as we push through Friday. Now, chances of rain, we are going to welcome in maybe a threat of an isolated shower come Saturday and Monday for southern Utah. For northern Utah, it's still just a slight risk for Monday. We're going to be calling for about a 20% chance of an isolated shower. So nothing really has changed there. As we look at the chances of rain, as we'll be pushing in a little bit of moisture in preparation for the Labor Day holiday. Now, as we look across southeastern Utah, that's an area of some cloud cover. We're not seeing the showers. We're keeping it at bay. And with that front moving in and that northwesterly flow will allow the moisture to kind of be at bay here as we go into tomorrow and Friday. But then that push comes in for Saturday into Sunday, initially coming in from the south and then spreading across northern Utah heading into Monday. It's not a big chance. So again, this is a situation you're not changing your plans. Just be mindful that you might have some brief rain, and it doesn't look like it'll be intense in that we don't see a lot of thunderstorm activity with heavy rainfall. So that's going to be good news. So making those plans to go to the national parks for the weekend, at least right now, looks to be okay. We'll keep you updated and have better kind of feel of that for tomorrow and Friday. Now, for tonight, it will be cooler. Temperatures returning to the 50s here for Ogden, Salt Lake City, getting down to the low 60s in Provo. Many spots in the mid 50s as you see through central Utah. Northern Utah, low 80s for highs, so even cooler as we'll be looking at temperatures anywhere between 5 to 7 degrees below average. Kind of a little bit warmer through central and southern Utah. It's mainly upper 80s to 90s and close to triple digits for St. George. Now, Saturday, there's some clouds. 20% chance of an isolated shower. I do have some clouds on Monday. All in all, we'll keep temperatures close to 100 degrees. And for northern Utah, you see the wiggly lines? That is smoke. Now, it could spill over into Friday. We'll kind of keep you updated to see how bad it gets throughout the weekend. The flow changes out of the south, which should push the smoke away heading into the weekend. So that's good news. And we'll see that threat of an isolated shower as we turn towards Monday and spilling over into Tuesday. But temperatures will be returning back into the 90s.
All right, Breck, thanks so much. President Biden's plan to help Americans repay student loans faces another hurdle. Find out about this latest development coming up.
And more money is going to our national parks, but it's not coming from your tax dollars. We'll explain. Stick with us. In Fox 13 News Money Watch, the U.S. Supreme Court has declined to lift a sweeping block on President Biden's student loan repayment plan.
The SAVE plan aims to slash monthly payments and quicken the path to loan forgiveness. The High Court turned down a request from the Biden administration to put that plan back in play. That came after lower courts blocked it this summer in a legal challenge brought by GOP-led states. There were no noted dissents in the order from the U.S. Supreme Court. It has no immediate impact on the 8 million borrowers currently enrolled in the program.
The National Park Foundation has received a $100 million grant from Lilly Endowment Incorporated. It is the largest grant the foundation has ever received, as well as the largest to benefit the 431 units within the national park system. Grant funding will target a handful of key priorities, like critical initiatives to help protect fragile ecosystems and wildlife, also upgrading parks to accommodate growing numbers of visitors.
It was a down day on Wall Street. The Dow shed 159 points to close at 41,091. The Nasdaq dropped 199. And the S&P lost 34.
Rates are going up for people in one Utah water district. What critics say would be a better way for leaders to raise the money they need.
And a look at how some Utahns are helping children develop a love for reading. We'll be right back.
One of Utah's largest water districts passes a tax increase.
The magnitude of what we have in place and what we have to maintain.
I'm Ben Winslow in Orem. The Central Utah Water Conservancy District is proposing the tax hike for infrastructure and emergency preparedness.
All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye. The board governing the Central Utah Water Conservancy District voted to approve a property tax hike. For the median priced home, it's about $6.62 a year.
But one, it helps us with the increases of inflation. Some of the projects we're looking at have increased by 20 to 30 to 40%. We also have continue to have aging infrastructure. You know very well, Ben, we have growth rates that are off the chart. And those folks are going to need a drink of water.
The Central Utah Water Conservancy District supplies water to more than 1.6 million people. It stretches from Salt Lake County into eastern Utah. Some of the infrastructure is aging, like this pipeline at the mouth of Provo Canyon.
That was built through an old landslide. At the time, geologists didn't understand what was there, so that pipeline over years has been squashed, if you will, by the landslide that's coming down, and at some point in time it will rupture that.
Only one person spoke about the tax hike on Tuesday. John Gadd says only 2 board members showed up for Truth in Taxation hearings to hear from members of the public.
We're being taxed to death. There's tax increases here in the county, there's tax increases by the school district, and with inflation, there's just increases on families with tight budgets here in Utah County and through all the other counties that you guys represent.
The watchdog group Utah Taxpayers Association is critical of the increase, saying how much the district collects has doubled over the past 8 years. These small increases the district has made year by year is death by 1,000 paper cuts to the taxpayer, they say. In an era of exploding housing costs, it is mind-boggling that the district would ask for more from taxpayers, which is essentially increasing the amount needed to own a home instead of looking for ways to make the money it collects stretch a little further. The district's manager insists they have no choice.
We have a statutory limit of 0004. That's our statutory limit. We cannot go above that. Other taxing entities can go several years without a tax increase and then do a relatively large 20, 30, 40, 50% increase.
Now, members of the Salt Lake County Council have also complained about tax increases. One says that she would prefer to see more of a user fee where people pay for the water that they use as opposed to an overall property tax increase. The legislature has actually commissioned a study on that very idea. It'll be completed in the fall. In Orem, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
We have an update now on a story Fox 13 News reporter Scott McCain first told you about last month in his segment, Utah's Most Wanted.
Unified Police have made an arrest in connection with the 2016 shooting death of Chandler Cooper. 35-year-old Jesse Mascaro faces a first-degree felony charge of obstruction of justice. Charging documents filed today say Mascaro denied knowing a major suspect in the case. Detectives later found phone records showing he did communicate with them before and after the homicide. Unified Police say Scott McCain's previous report on this case brought in several tips that helped the investigation.
We would definitely at UPD like to thank Fox 13 and especially Scott McCain for running a story and highlighting this case again. We were able to follow up on substantial tips that we received in order to bring, a partial conclusion to this case.
The investigation is still active, so if you have any information that can help, please contact Unified Police and you can remain anonymous.
In southern Utah, a Cedar City man is in jail after police say he shot at a neighbor's dogs, leaving one of them dead. 50-year-old Joshua Bailey was booked into the Iron County Jail last night. Booking documents indicate he chased the dogs off his property at about 8 p.m. on Monday. Later, he's accused of going over to where the dogs live and shooting them with a handgun. The documents also indicate the dog's owner was not home at the time.
An off-duty Springville police officer sounded an alarm that might have saved the lives of 3 people. It happened at 68 East and 800 South at about 3:45 this morning. Authorities say the officer saw smoke coming from the house and notified dispatchers. Officers evacuated the home and neighboring homes as well before fire crews got on scene. The Red Cross is now helping one evacuated resident and the other 2 were taken to other locations. The cause of the fire is under investigation.
Firefighters in Mountain Green managed to score a good deal on some new technology. The Utah Fire and Rescue Academy in Provo was holding a, quote, gently used tool sale. A fire chief with Mountain Green Fire noticed that they were selling modern Jaws of Life rescue tools at a significant discount. So he quickly got the approval from their board of trustees to buy them, replacing the 22-year-old equipment the volunteer fire department had been previously using. The agency says the modern tools will allow them to respond more quickly, adding that speed is life.
Think back. Do you remember your favorite book as a child?
Yeah.
Oh, that one that you always picked every night to have your mom or dad read to you? Having those books around the house is something many of us actually really take for granted.
And that's why every year Fox 13 News teams up with the Scripps Howard Foundation to put free books in the hands of students who need them the most. Our If You Give a Child a Book campaign provides free book fairs for students in Title I schools right here in Salt Lake City. Title I schools are those where at least 40% of students qualify for free or reduced lunch. Research shows having books in the home is one of the biggest predictors of a child's success in school and beyond. But many children lack access to books they need. That's why donations from the community are so critical, so students can choose books at no cost to them.
We also recognize too, to your point, everyone is pinching and saving as many pennies as they can. So all I say to or can show people are the smiles. And for anyone who's had the opportunity to see a book fair for themselves or by way of volunteering, and you see the kids light up when they get to hear that they're picking out their own books and that these books are free and they're theirs to call their own. I mean, it truly makes the world of difference.
To date, the If You Give a Child a Book campaign has distributed more than 1.3 million books to students across the country. The goal is to reach 2 million books by the year 2026-2027. A donation of $12 buys you 2 books for a student.
Well, books may be the cornerstone for learning to read, but there are many other ways children can build literacy skills.
In conjunction with our If You Give a Child a Book campaign, we're highlighting the importance of childhood literacy throughout the month of September. Here's Fox 13 News anchor Robin Oginye.
Before your child is old enough to nab their first job, they could be a construction worker, a baker, a musician, or a homemaker. The playtime you see here at Discovery Gateway Children's Museum is more than just that. The museum CEO says it's a great way to build literacy skills. And why is that?
Children really respond to what they see, and when they see stuff, they learn from it. And learning through play and learning through immersive experiences is the best way to get your children very engaged.
And engagement is the start of a healthy relationship with books and words, one that Discovery Gateway hopes to foster in little ones.
The museum is a busy place and there's so much going on. It's really nice for children and parents to have a quiet place where they can just look through some books, maybe reinforce something they saw here in the museum while they're still here, and look for that book later even, to reinforce that learning.
This is what we call multisensory learning. According to Newhouse Education Center, multisensory learning involves using multiple senses to gather and process information. By engaging more than one sense, kids are able to form stronger neural connections related to the material they may be learning. In literacy education, integrating sensory activities helps students to better absorb and process new information.
When you have an immersive experience, it makes children interested about what happens next, or they want to learn a deeper understanding of something. So if you came here and you were digging for fossils, you might want to get a book with your child on an actual dinosaur dig that has been discovered, and they'll realize, wow, that's a whole career path. That's something that I could do when I grow up. So it gives them this opportunity to discover now, but also think about their future, which is great for children.
And it's easy to put into practice. So even when you can't sit down for story time is all around you.
You know, you can ask your children about their senses, what they're seeing, what they're hearing, what they're smelling, and it will help to heighten their observation skills and also their communication skills as they try to explain that back to you.
Robin Oginye, Fox 13 News, Utah.
And books really can change a child's story. You can make a tax-deductible donation by scanning the QR code on your screen right now. You can also visit fox13now.com/giveabook or text Fox 13 Reads, all one word, to 50155. You can also make a donation in person at any Cypress Credit Union branch.
The Jordan River Fest is here, and coming up, I'll show you different activities you and your family can get involved in.
We're looking to do some activities for the weekend. Of course, it's the holiday. Are we going to be keeping the rain away? And where are we going temperature-wise? I'll let you know after the break.
And later in sports, I'll give you another reason to start getting excited about the Utah Hockey Club. And we're down to our final 24 hours. The start of the college football season at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Here from the Utes and the T-Birds. Back in a bit.
Every little thing we do makes a big difference collectively for the Jordan River.
I'm Fox 13 News reporter Darian DeBrule at the Jordan River, where different activities for you and your family to get involved in will be taking place over the next few weeks.
I just love this little slice of nature right through the middle of our busy metro area.
The Jordan River Parkway, 60 miles of paved urban trail along the Jordan River, where on a beautiful morning you'll find bikers, walkers, and wildlife.
I just love that we have all this natural beauty out here. This is right here in the middle of the valley through so many of our communities.
Over the next month or so, you'll also find over 50 different family-friendly activities along and on the Jordan River for the 11th annual Get to the River Festival. There's everything from paddling to fishing to scavenger hunts, mini golf, and more.
There's something for everybody, and it's just kind of magical. And every community has kind of created its own place around the river, but the collection of all of them has really created this regional asset and amenity that's just incredible.
Soren Simonson is the executive director of the Jordan River Commission. He says this year's festival theme is connection, a reminder of how the river connects us and how we're connected to it.
There are some areas that need attention for sure, but this incredible resource is beautiful. It is in the middle of the Utah, Salt Lake, Davis County region, which has a population of over 2 million people. It's like this oasis.
Sorensen says this fall there will be a major restoration initiative for the river, but there's things that we can all do to enjoy and preserve it during the festival and beyond.
We encourage people to get out at least once a month and clean around their home, their business, their park, their school, their church, wherever they love to spend time, and then come and see the impact and the benefit on the Jordan River.
To learn more about the Jordan River Fest and events, you can go to gettotheriver.org. At the Jordan River, Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Jordan River Fest. Hopefully the weather will hold out as we celebrate that great resource.
Yeah, it's getting kind of warm again today. Hot, Greg.
It was warm today, but don't worry, we're cooling back down at least for a couple more days before we crank up the heat in preparation for the holiday weekend. Of course, as you would expect, it's hot in St. George. Right now, we're seeing temperatures close to 100 degrees, 98. Humidity still low. Winds a little bit stronger today because of a cool front that's moving through northern Utah. Ahead of that, we're finding those winds, at least across central and southern Utah, upwards of anywhere between 15 to 25 miles with some stronger wind gusts. Salt Lake City, the flow out of the north front has moved in. The cooler air lagging behind will feel the difference come tomorrow. In addition, under that northerly flow, we're going to be adding in some more smoke that's going to be pushing in with wildfires that are burning through Idaho. As it does push its way through, we're going to see diminishing air quality. Actually, potentially going from Thursday to Friday, we're into that orange, unhealthy for sensitive groups. At least Friday through Saturday, we start changing the flow back out of the south. That'll push the smoke away and hopefully see some improvements as we look towards the latter half of the weekend. under that flow, and as we change out of the south, we'll start to welcome in a little bit of moisture. Now, we always talk about that monsoonal flow. This is not really a strong monsoon flow of tapping in some deep moisture, but it does make its move initially across southern Utah as we go from Friday into Saturday. You're seeing that little bit of darker green there. That's some deeper moisture. That means I'm changing the forecast for at least for St. George, southwestern Utah. There's going to be a risk of an isolated shower to start off the holiday weekend. And then that moisture begins to move northward, I should say, bringing in some clouds and maybe a slight chance of some rain still as we look towards Monday. But as we look over the next 48 hours where we see the possibility of rain across the state, we just do not see it. Until Saturday, you start to see it starting to push its way through. That's why we're saying, okay, there's maybe a slight risk of an isolated shower across southwestern Utah for Saturday. Tonight, though, it's clear and cooler. Overnight temperatures getting down into the upper 50s. So we're back into the 50s with those morning lows. Tomorrow, we're not going to be looking at mid to upper 80s where we should be for this time of year. We're talking low 80s. So getting a reprieve from the heat as these temperatures were quickly climbing. But now we'll get that break, at least here across northern Utah. The cooler air not pushing its way through at least central and southern Utah, where it looks like it'll still be pretty hot in the forecast for tomorrow as temperatures getting close to 100 degrees. You see Saturday, I have a threat of an isolated shower. Should be okay for the rest of the weekend. All in all, though, we don't see a big shakeup in the temperature department for St. George. Northern Utah, all right, there's little squiggly lines. That's smoke, so thicker smoke Thursday into Friday. Hopefully seeing some improvements for the weekend, but we do see temperatures back on the rise. A quick climb up into the low 90s. Monday into Tuesday, a threat of an isolated shower. Once we get past that, we'll be looking at temperatures returning back into the upper 80s. So it's going to be warm for the weekend. Only maybe some brief rain on Monday, but here for the next couple of days, it's the cooler air and the smoke that'll be in play.
2 seasons ago, Utah began with a rare Saturday opener when they made the trip to Gainesville to play Florida. But other than that, in the odd COVID season, the Utes have debuted on a Thursday night every single go-around since 2009, some of those years being the marquee game. This go-around, they'll be one of 4 ranked teams in play as 38-point favorites to beat SUU. Here's Kyle Whittingham on the strategy behind the whole Thursday thing.
It also is an advantage of sorts where we have a couple extra days to prepare for the second opponent. So that plays into it as much as anything else. But that's just been something that's been in place for a lot of years and it's worked for us. And far more years than not, we have opened on a Thursday.
Yeah, consider this their first football game as a member of the Big 12, though they won't face a Big 12 opponent until next week against Baylor and won't compete in their first conference game until week 4 at Oklahoma State. Regardless, a new era of Ute football is underway, even though it might look a lot like the past with quarterbacks like Cam Rising back under center.
Man, I was just telling others that don't feel nervous at all. If anything, just excited to see how we're going to start the season, and it's going to be great. So can't wait to see Cam and everyone out there. It feels like it's going to be just like old times.
Cam is surrounded by a lot of weapons. You know Cam, he's always comfortable, but with this receiver room, the man, he's the real deal. He's everything that they say he is. And so, man, you guys know how he was a couple years ago. He's that same person.
As for SUU, they opened up the season a year ago against another new Big 12 member, nearly pulling off a shocker in Tempe at Arizona State. T-Bird head coach Delane Fitzgerald this week had a hot take on Utah's coaching history.
If I'm an FBS athletic director and I get a choice of hiring Kyle Whittingham or Urban Meyer, I take Kyle Whittingham. Urban Meyer's success at Utah was because of how good Whit was as an assistant coach.
Yeah.
Urban Meyer won 2 national titles at Florida and a national title at Ohio State. 2 schools that should compete for that all the time.
Right.
Yeah, Kyle Whittingham's taken a school that had never competed for anything on the national level and put them on the national level.
All right, don't hold back. Major League Hockey is only 25 days out from preseason action here in Utah and 41 days out from their NHL regular season debut. As for the Utah Hockey Club's first offseason since the transfer from Arizona, one publication has divvied out high marks, the USA Today, delivering an A- grade for adding a couple of key veterans via trades in Mikhail Sergachev and John Marino. Utah, one of only 3 clubs out of 32 to receive an A. Only Nashville was graded higher. That season opener is scheduled for October 8th against Chicago at the Delta Center. And matinee baseball with first place on the line between the Royals and Guardians. Yansky Noel just gets it to drop there, scoring Josh Naylor for the lead. And I like this. Andres Jimenez goes springboard to deny the hit at second. Look at that leap. Cleveland also denies the 4-game sweep, 7-5.
Oh, my
Bob can jump that high on a good day.
I used to jump that high. Not anymore.
Wow. What was your sport?
I played a little baseball. In the outfield, and it was a lot of fun back in the day.
Tucked away in the corner
sometimes
somewhere.
it was beyond the fence, when somebody had to go get the foul ball,
But you were in the game.
I was in the game.
We'll be right back.
Don't even need a sweater if you're going for a walk tonight.
It's hot.
No.
Tomorrow night, though, you might need a little sweatshirt for the game if you're going.
It's football weather. I like it. See you tonight at 9.